our good buddy James Hammond, fresh from King's practice. Hammer, what's happening?
Oh, not a whole lot. You guys coming in hot today? What's going on?
We just different thoughts on the All-Star game and
Monica
All-Star weekend.
It's just one of them days.
Now you guys see why I didn't waste my money and go?
Yeah, but like we know what it is. Like everybody knows what it is, and to be upset about what it is or demand that it be different, it's probably just barking up the wrong tree. Like I don't know the new ending is fun, like, but it didn't appear like. So what I was going to add, like, so the whole game was nonsense. Mm-hmm. We all agree on that. There's no question about that. But they were goofing around to an even higher degree at the end, trying to hit half-court shots for the win. Meanwhile, I don't remember what team LeBron was cutting it. Like they were cutting into the league. Like if it had would that have made it more exciting if like they had tied the game, or like would it then all of a sudden, if the ending was great, would that have masked the that nastiness of the game?
I think that's always the deodorant to the All-Star game. And that's what they try with the Elam ending. They try to, as much as they can, like move it into a way where they think they can always have a competitive ending, because that's when those guys will play. That's when we'll see as close as we can to those great guys playing a real basketball game. In that particular case, I don't know if it would happen, because that wasn't a great ending. That was just guys messing around, and the other guys were making layups while they were messing around for 7 straight possessions, and it got close. So that's not the same exact thing, but I think that's why I love the Elam ending, and I think that's why they incorporated it. They're always trying to find a way to get to a point where, in the end, these guys, the game's close enough where these guys will play. Because I think that's always, even in the terribleness of the last decade of All-Star games, there is the unwritten rule that they follow by, where if it's close, we'll play. We'll play to some degree. It doesn't have to be Game 7 of the NBA Finals. But if it's close in the fourth, we'll play. Mm-hmm. And that's where the league is trying to orchestrate, where how do we make it where it'll always be somewhat close? So
I get it. I think De'Aaron Fox's approach was probably the best approach out of anyone there. Like, he's like, okay, this isn't basketball. What am I doing here? Mm-hmm. That's what it felt like. It's like, I'm not going to go out there. I'm not going to get hurt. I'm not going to do something silly that costs my team the potential to go to the playoffs. I'm good. Like, he missed a dunk. Who cares? Like, that's it. And I think, you had some guys out there stat hunting, and he's like, okay, that's not what I'm going to do here. I'm not going to stat hunt. And, the building wasn't even full. They didn't even sell it out. So, like, to me, it was about as big a disaster an All-Star weekend as you could possibly have. And outside of someone getting hurt.
Not to be funny, maybe the part of the problem was Utah.
Yeah, the location.
Like
people weren't flying into Utah.
Yeah, like there's a certain level of like travel. There's a certain level of people you want to travel to this. We willingly were just like, hey, we'll get you in this gift. Nah, like we're cool. We don't really want to go. Mm-hmm. And like, that's part of it. And the NBA has to recognize part of that. Like, they haven't been to Salt Lake City in 30 years. They didn't need to be there. Mm. It doesn't need to be like the Super Bowl where you cycle between, 4 destinations or 5 destinations or however many, but you do need to be mindful. It's like what we were talking about earlier. Is this a live event for people to travel to, and that's who you're catering to, or is it a television event? Because if it's a television event, you're going to have to fix that product we saw. Mm-hmm. If it's a live event, then you better go somewhere where people will travel to. And all of your Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday events are sold out, because that's where your money is coming from.
Well, I also think it's always going to be a television event first, because that's, even if you have people traveling, more of your consumers are going to be on TV. So it's always going to be a television product.
But what do you guys think about Sacramento then? Because this isn't a destination. This isn't a place where people are going to flock to because, it's in Sacramento. So, like, I think that it is good that they go around and they let every city that possibly can, host a game, like, represent. But
it was like 70 degrees on Sunday. That's part of the selling point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know it's 40 degrees today, but
yeah. But you also have, like, the talk of Milwaukee coming up. Like NBA circles, very few people want to go to Milwaukee at all. You talk about Indiana. Again, the building is cool, but very few people want to go to Indiana to go watch a game. So, like, where do we have it? Do we just have it in New York City? When I went, it was like -17 and the coldest I've ever been in my entire life. Or Toronto, like the 2 years later. Or do you just go to New Orleans every year and have a good time down there? I mean, like, I think it's kind of stuck. They're kind of stuck with the product that they have. They got to figure out a way to make it more competitive, where you do 3-on-3 or you do like smaller games or something. You have to make it a round robin tournament or something. But what we saw like on Sunday was, I mean, it's just such a poor showing of what your product is.
But it's not going to change unless they change, the players. They can do 3-on-3. They can do 1-on-1. It don't matter. Like, if they don't change, it's not going to change. And that's whatever, right? Like, I'm not.
Mark that down. If they don't change, it's not going to change. That's a
well. Look, the most exciting thing about the entire weekend was a G League player winning the slam dunk contest. He's not even in the league. I mean, he's a two-way at McClung, but like that was the most exciting thing about the entire weekend. Outside of that, pretty bad.
So, yeah, it wasn't good.
No, not good.
It wasn't good.
Yeah, I enjoyed All-Star Weekend. So
it doesn't bother me.
I enjoyed how it is, and I think, Damian, one of the things hour and a half later that maybe got lost in what I was saying was, like, it doesn't have to be better. There's a difference between saying it has to be better and wishing it was better. I wish it was different. Like, I wish the game was different. It doesn't have to be different for me to tune in or for me to enjoy it. Maybe for other people. There's like, maybe that's, people with the outrage, like, they're outraged that it was like that. I'm not outraged that the game was what it was. I wish it was better. I wish it was a better game. I wish they competed more, but they didn't. That's what it is. I'm going to watch next year in Indianapolis. I'm gonna enjoy All-Star Weekend, whether I'm there or on TV or whatever the case may be.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say none of the three of us are going to Indianapolis for All-Star Weekend.
Yeah, probably not.
So
don't need to go experience the skywalk ourselves.
One of the things about that, though, is, and this would be the argument for going to Utah, Salt Lake City, is I think about this a lot with like 49ers games. Why else would I ever go to Indianapolis? And I like to travel. I like to travel. I like to see different cities. I would never just go on my own. So if I'm going to go, it would be like, All-Star game, or the Niners are playing there. Like, I'd have a reason to go. But if it was just, no Joakim Noah, but I'm not going to go spend my vacation in Indianapolis.
Yeah.
So that would be the only reason why I would consider. Like, if they're like, hey, you guys can go if you want to. All right, well, I'll think about it.
Yeah, one of my bigger concerns was just a lack of energy. Like, there was no energy there. And, like I talked to, guys who went today and yesterday at Kings practice, and like they weren't even playing for a sellout crowd. There wasn't even an engagement level really to what you're seeing. And I mean, it's what separates it. Like, when you cover the Sacramento Kings and things are even the slightest bit good, the fans are crazy. They're amazing. And that's something that I think All-Star Weekend could really use. Like, Sacramento gets passed over because of like sheer number of hotel rooms, whatever. Fox stayed 40 minutes away from the arena.
Yeah, and they was out there live shot at the Radisson. Come on, man. When I saw the Radisson, I said, come on, man, I don't want to hear that no more.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear that. They're at the Radisson.
We got one of those.
Yeah, I mean, like, if you guys have been to Salt Lake City, I mean, it's kind of like Dallas. Like, downtown Dallas everything is like not very tall, like buildings wise. It's very low key. It's just kind of plain, and there's nothing super exciting about it. I mean, at least Sacramento has like the big river running right down the middle of it. That's actually something that's visually appealing. I guess you can look up and see the mountains and stuff.
Bro, we got the beam. That's all that matters.
We got the beam.
Like the beam for All-Star Weekend.
Hell, if they bring back All-Star Weekend, or they bring All-Star Weekend here, we'll bring back Club Ricky's.
No, we won't. We'll never bring back Club Ricky's. That's occupied by an entirely different entity now. Before we get to the Kings and Kings practice and all of that stuff today, I'm going to need you to call your boy, Michael Malone, and tell him to calm his ass down. He needs to stop with this. He's got the top team in the Western Conference. He just got done coaching the All-Star team. Call him and tell him, bro, look, we get it. You're good. Please stop, because now you're just obnoxious. So if you want to step out and call him right now, you can, or you can call him after the show. But I need you to call your boy.
Just the sheer pettiness.
It's silly, dude. Like
it is. It
like,
is.
Stop.
We're at that point, especially if you're at the All-Star game. It's like,
why are you even thinking about Vivek Ranadive?
Yeah, like you realistically should be focused on the positivity of you being there. That your team is the number 1 seed in the Western Conference, and because they're the number 1 seed, you get invited to be the coach. That's what you should be focused on.
Mike Malone is going to thank Vivek Ranadive the second they hand him the Larry O'Brien. Like, Vivek Ranadive is going to be like the second name out of his mouth. It's going to be Nikola Jokic and then Vivek Ranadive. And I don't know how he's going to do it, but he's going to work that into his speech if they ever win the championship.
They're going to win the NBA championship. And like, I'm just so happy for the fans of Sacramento. I'm so happy for the fans. I'm really happy for them.
You know what's really crazy to me too is that I don't know that Michael, like, his vision of what happened and his understanding of what happened, it's never matched up to what I know.
I don't think because didn't Pete go to work? Didn't they work together after he left here?
Yeah,
after they both left here.
But again, that's a farce.
Well,
I mean,
and even then, James, tell me if I'm wrong. Like, I know you know this a lot better, but wasn't it obviously Vivek had to sign off on it? But Vivek didn't run Mike out of here. That was Pete, right?
Yeah, it's a combination. And Pete and Chris Mullin, and it was a power struggle. Like, Michael Malone and Pete D'Alessandro didn't talk to each other for the final 6 weeks they were on the job together. They literally did not speak at all. Like, we went to Vegas Summer League during that off season between Mike's first and second season. Mm-hmm. And ran into Michael and said hi and blah, blah, blah. Then we ran into Pete and said, hey, we just saw Michael. And, he's down here. And it's like, oh, I didn't know he's down here. The GM didn't know the head coach was somewhere. Like, that doesn't make any sense. The way the whole thing played out was bad. It was ugly. And then even afterwards, there was some horrible play that went on afterwards where all of a sudden there was a rumor spread that Michael Malone was insubordinate. And that was not Vivek Ranadive calling a media member and saying that Michael Malone was insubordinate during his time in Sacramento. That was very specific people inside the house. And I've always, I've talked to Michael about it. I've always thought that Michael, sure, Vivek's part of the problem in that situation. And he was new. He was just getting, it was his first year on the job as owner of the Kings. But the real mistake was that Vivek hadn't learned to hire good people that have good motives and put them around you and have everybody pulling together the same direction, which is, again, might be the first time right now that we see relatively clean group where everyone is pulling the right direction together. So yeah, I mean, there's always a fox in the hen house, Sacramento. Always.
You're better than that, Mike Malone. Let it go, man. Keisha Cole.
Let's get into practice today and last night. I guess the most important note is Malik Monk returned to practice last night, and it sounds like he's good to go for tomorrow.
Yeah, I talked to somebody yesterday, and they said that even originally it was a very low-grade ankle sprain, and that he's okay. Malik was pretty clear that he was scared at the time. He thought, that it could be the ankle. A lot of people thought it was his knee, but he said, he was worried he broke it initially, and then sure enough, he came out clean, and he's doing just fine. He was at practice yesterday and today. Everyone's a little, you take a week off. It seems like it would be great for your body and all that stuff. It is, but it also, you take a week off, and it's tough when you're, an elite level athlete to get back out on the court and kind of get the body going again. So yeah, they're all healthy.
We're setting the table for first game back from the All-Star break.
It's like day 3 of training camp. Day 3 of training camp is you look around and there's 3 guys sitting out with gigantic ice bags all over their bodies, and you're like, it's one of those days. Like, yeah, it's one of those days.
Were Domas and De'Aaron there today?
They were today. They weren't yesterday. And mandatory, like NBA rules, they don't have to be there until they get an extra day because they took part of the festivities on the weekend. Yeah, so both of them. Fox did work out yesterday with Luke Laux, but him and Domas did not participate in practice. And everyone's back. Everyone's ready. I mean, this is like they're focused. It's a pretty good vibe. They know what's in front of them.
It sounds like everybody's gearing up, Ham. Everybody's gearing up for this final 25 games. And I started the show talking about how I'm excited for this. You know, as a Kings fan, it's somebody that's, you know, we've all lived through 16, 17 years of no postseason. We're on the precipice of ending that streak. Ending right there. I think they'll get it done. I'm not here to sound overconfident or anything like that, but 25 games up, you're the 3 seed in the West. Like, you should think like, hey, we could get this done. But it sounds like the team, listening to Mike Brown, listening to Davion, listening to Malik, those guys, seems like they also understand the moment of we're here. Let's go get this thing done. And there's an eagerness, at least that I heard in the voice of those guys, to get this done and complete the task.
Yeah, I think that there is. At the same time, again, we're in uncharted waters. These guys are venturing into a realm that a lot of them have not been in or haven't been in this situation for a long time. I mean, Harrison Barnes, what's been like 2015 since he's been in the playoffs. I mean, it's been a long time. Yeah, something like that. 2015, 2016. So some of these guys are, you know, they don't understand it at all. They don't know what's coming. And another group is like, okay, yeah, we've been here before, but it's been a while. You know, maybe a Kevin Huerter, who was in it in the mix, can have some sort of conversation about this, but the rest of them, there's not a lot of experience in it. So I think it's interesting to see sort of a team venture into like an area where it's uncomfortable. Like, you don't know what's coming from one night to the next. And you got to be ready. You got to be geared up, and you have to understand that the focus goes from, you know, like 90% to 98% right now. Like, if you're not right there and like almost 100% focused on each and individual play, you're going to have some rough nights down in the last 25 games.
It could also work the other way though. Like, you don't know what you don't know. So if you don't know, like, oh, this is pressure filled, and you know, I've never been here. Like, you could be like, it's just basketball. When we're all around, no, it's not just basketball. You got an opportunity to change the course of the city. It's not just. They're like,
changes the whole course of the city. That's right.
Let's hoop. Let's go out there and hoop, because you don't know what you don't know. Like I said, so it could benefit them as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's always the possibility. I mean, you just, again, like when you're starting a season and things work out the way that they have so far, like the last thing I want to hear is them talk about house money or something we're playing, or, you know, no one expects us to be there. It's like, okay, that worked for 50 something games. That's not the case now. Like, I talked to Mike Brown before.
And I don't think players talk like that. Media members might.
Yeah. You're probably right. Like, I think some players are like, oh, well, no one expects us to be here, so, you know, we're kind of flying under the radar. It's like, well, I think Mike Brown, I talked to him during the break, and I wrote on it on, was it yesterday? He said we're at that point where the hunted become the hunted. The hunters become the hunted. He's like, so we're not used to being the hunted at all. Like, we've been hunting wins, and we've been doing a good job and all that stuff. But at this point, like, there are teams that want the 3 spot. They're coming for that 3 spot. And if you slide 1 spot, there are teams that are coming for the 4 spot. There are teams that are coming for the 5 spot. They all see the same thing we do. Like, you need to be in 6 or better to be safe. And so it's going to be a fight, and it's who shows up on a nightly basis. And, you know, Mike Brown talked about it today. He's like, you know, people just say, oh, all you have to do is go like 12 and 13 and you're in. It's like, okay, we still got to win 12 games. Like, and that's not our point of view. That's your point of view. We still have to win those games. And so it's going to be a dogfight. Don't take anything for granted. Look at everything in 5-game increments. Stay focused. Get to the end of the season. See where you're at.
Go 1-0 every day.
1-0 every day.
Yeah,
let's ride.
1-0 every day. Let's ride indeed. But to Kenny's point, do you think they feel the pressure of this? Kenny's like, they don't know they don't know what they don't know, which could be the flip side of it. But do you think they're aware of this? Was that a conversation the last 2 days, or is it just we're just talking basketball?
No, I think that they're aware. Like even Keegan talked about it today after practice. He said we got a little taste of it those last couple of games before the break. You know, the 2 games against Dallas and 1 against Phoenix, we felt the difference in intensity. Like we know that was a taste of what we're going to see in the second half. And I think that that's perfect. They actually got a little bit to think about, because it's one thing for it to be some weird idea that's floating out there in space. It's purely speculative, or, it's something that you haven't faced before, but it's something that just people talk about. When you get into it and you play a couple of games that have like a really, really crazy playoff intensity, you're like, oh, okay. Now I get it. Now I'm starting to see what you guys are talking about. So I think it's really good that they had that and then a week to think about it. And their All-Star break was longer than most teams, which is great for this team. I mean, they had some bumps and bruises. No one outside of Malik really had a major injury that they're dealing with. The thumbs on Sabonis and Keegan. And again, Keegan doesn't even have to wear a brace anymore. He's all clear. But, for the most part, it's not just a time to let your body heal. It's a time to let your mind heal, to like step away. We talked to Keegan today. Keegan hadn't seen his twin brother in 7 months. Hadn't seen him. He's seen him on FaceTime. They FaceTime every day, but they haven't actually been in the room together. The longest time before that they'd ever been apart was a week at one point. They had spent like 7 days apart. But these are guys that they're twins. They lived in the same apartment. They went to the same school. Like the Morris twins for years shared the same bank account. Like these are guys that have been super close their whole entire lives. And then to just not be able to see each other. Like this was a great time for him to get away, for, even Fox to get away and enjoy this thing with his wife and his baby and kind of take everything in and have a moment to catch your breath. So I'm excited to see how they bounce back.
It'll be cool when Keegan's brother plays here next year.
That'll be awesome.
Hey, I'm in.
We'll step out. We'll come back. We'll talk more Kings basketball. I do want to bring that 49ers story up too. And Hammer's a 49ers guy, so I'm sure he has plenty of thoughts on the fact that Brock Purdy did in fact not have surgery today. And then we'll dive in, get ready for Kings basketball. We'll talk about the second part of the season when we return here on Sacramento Sports Leader, ESPN 1320. There, y'all. I got worried. I felt like the chat stopped moving for a minute, but I'm glad y'all in here. Like it hit a long pause button. Warm up the playoff beam, baby. Warm me up on that beam.
Brock Purdy's just never going to get surgery, and we're going to be stuck with Jimmy G as the 49ers quarterback, and it's time loop forever.
They will hire James Ham before they hire Jimmy Garoppolo. Over Kyle's dead body, will they bring Jimmy Garoppolo back?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I could use Tommy John. I got a bunch of mess going on in the elbow from years of volleyball and softball.
When you go under, you should just be like, fix everything. Just
fix everything.
Knock me out and fix everything.
James gonna come back like Rookie of the Year.
That's right. Henry Rowan Gardner?
Yeah, Rowan Gardner.
Yeah. Rowan Gardner. There we go.
It's a classic right there.
Look at you three.
Look at
you.
I used to watch all those little kids back
you
then.
three right here.
That's right.
Which one's the one where it's the kid who owns the Twins?
Little Big League.
That's one of my favorites too.
That's where we got the fame. If you're getting excited over a Sing I single, that tells you everything that you need to know.
Changed my life the way I look at sports.
Yeah. And I we can talk about this on the show, but Greg Van Dusen passed away yesterday.
I saw you
72.
Yeah, I scared the crap out of me because you quote tweeted an article that had a picture of Albie Akani with Greg. I was like, wait, what is this?
No, Greg, one of the true originals. Like, just
Al listens to us right now. Like, I'm not dead. I'm right here.
Yeah, a great storyteller. sometimes you had to go back and make sure you did your due diligence after one of his stories.
Mm-hmm.
He once caught like an 800-pound fish type guy.
It's like,
but yeah,
had to do the same with Marty Mack. Just
a good old Marty
go
Mack.
back and ask a few people.
Yeah,
if
okay.
something
I need
happened.
to get to the bottom of this. Yeah.
That's too bad.
Yeah, just a really nice guy. We filmed him in front of Arco 1 in Small Market Big Heart, which was his request, which was a nightmare because we had to go through and find, like, we had to go get permission from the Buzz Oates group to film in front of the building. And then on top of that, there are 2 statues that sit in front of Arco 1, and they were made by 2 local brothers in the 80s. Well, they had both passed. So in order, like, anytime you do film, if there's a work of art on the wall, you have to get permission from that person. And so we had to go through and find one of the brothers' daughters and get written permission to have the things in the film. But yeah, you can see, like, if you remember back to when the Greg Lukenbill climbed into the rafters to catch the water from spilling out on the court. Even in Small Market, we got the footage of it. We had Greg Van Dusen talking in a striped shirt, and then they panned to that incident, and Greg Van Dusen is on his hands and knees sopping up water off the court with, like, the ball boys, trying to get the water. So because they were worried that they would suspend the game, and it was $1 million fine, and they didn't have $1 million to cover it. And so, yeah, really good dude. Sad, 72 years old.
Lukenbill, bless his heart, that was crazy.
Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah, climbing up in the rafters like that.
That
yeah,
was crazy.
That is wild.
So I'll be like Rob W here in the YouTube chat, youtube.com/ESPN1320. Let's hit those thumbs up. Hit the thumbs up. Hit the subscribe buttons as well. Chatty House is a great way to be a part of the show, as you have been today, as you are every single day. I'm happy to have our 1320 Kings insider, James Ham, here with us. Before we dive back into the Kings, KC did want to mention this. Your boy.
That is my boy.
Yeah. So Brock Purdy was scheduled to have surgery today. It was announced yesterday that Brock Purdy will, in fact, not have surgery today due to inflammation. Now, there's nothing uncommon about that. I'd be a little concerned that the fact that he's still having inflammation from an injury that happened like a month ago, and he hasn't had the surgery yet. But I don't know, man. This got bad vibes to it. This whole Brock Purdy injury thing's got some bad vibes to it.
Yeah, I think, and I hope, this is just the feeling that I get. Maybe this is the pessimist in me in this particular situation. I hope I'm dead wrong, but I think they're gonna get in there and they're gonna have to maybe do some Tommy John for Brock, and he might lose the season next year. That's just the feeling I get with everything that's going on. I would hate that for him because he had such it's not a dream season, but a dream moment, I guess, doing what he did at the end of the season for the 49ers and leading them to 2 playoff victories and all that. I would hate for him not to be able to come right back and take advantage of that opportunity, because I do think he'd be the starting quarterback coming into training camp. But I'm afraid for the worst, man, for him.
Yeah, it's not great. I mean, anytime you're dealing with the surgical procedure on an arm for a quarterback, it's not a good thing. I mean, whether it's a shoulder injury or an elbow injury, it's really surprising we haven't seen more of these types of injuries.
I see that type of tackle that
all the
sack
time,
like once a week in the NFL, and I'm afraid. I was afraid when it happened to Purdy. Like, oh my gosh, the arm got bent back the wrong way. Like, he's gonna need, like, not to be LeKinney here. No, I was like, oh my gosh, he hurt his elbow. He's gonna need Tommy John. When he couldn't come back into the game, that's when I was like, oh, he hurt his elbow. And like you said, we see this like once a week, at least once a Sunday. And I'm glad they don't happen more often, but I'm actually surprised they don't happen more often.
It's really strange because, Major League Baseball, we've seen this increase in Tommy John surgeries where, half the kids in your minor league system have had Tommy John surgery. It's crazy how like the overthrowing at a young age has really eaten into it, into these kids, throwing motion and stuff. But if you look at the NFL and the way the football is structured, there isn't, the 60, 80 games a year that some of these kids are playing baseball. There's not that many games of football. If you're going to play Pop Warner, you're looking at 10, 12 games. If you're going to play high school, you're looking at a maximum of like 13 games. And sure, you have throwing programs and stuff like that you have guys go through. And on occasion, you get the guys with dead arm, which is what happened to Trey Lance during last summer. But it's not very common. And to me, it is very strange that you would think that that these guys are going to camps, they are doing things all year long, that you would see more of this repetitive injury. But yeah, it's not great for him. I hope it all works out.
Chris brings up a great point here in the YouTube chat. Kyle never should have had his quarterbacks run up the middle or drop back to pass. I blame him. When all else fails, just blame Kyle Shanahan.
Now, on the flip side of that, RIP, I think Trey Lance is going to be ready to go. I'm anxious to see the way he plays. I got a lot of confidence in the way Trey Lance could play if he gets the opportunity to be the QB1 for the 49ers. We saw him last year, very, very short stint. But in that Bears game, before the monsoon hit, he looked fine. He didn't look like a superstar. I'm not saying that, but he looked fine. And in the Seahawks game, for a drive and a half, he looked fine again. So I expect more of the same. I think he's gonna work as the number one quarterback this offseason, get those type of reps, be ready to go. I think I did see something over the week where I think even I probably kind of, dismissed the whole arm fatigue thing or whatever that was being reported during last training camp. And I think Trey Lance came out and confirmed that really did happen. Like he's like, yeah, my arm was dead. Like I was throwing. I think he said he's either throwing every day and that's why it happened, or he got to the point where it's like I couldn't throw every day. Like I had to take, throw 2 days, take a day off or whatever because the arm was dead. So that's something that he probably doesn't have to deal with right now, and may affect his accuracy and any velocity they may have on the ball. I'm looking if Purdy can't come back and be ready, because make it perfectly clear, if I had to choose between the two, I think Brock Purdy is a better quarterback than Trey Lance. But if Brock can't go and Trey's QB1, I think he's gonna play well. I do.
They take the job back.
It might be the same situation where he's playing. Like if he starts the season and let's just say Brock can't get back this season, it's not a Tommy John, and they're 4-1 to start the season. How do you go?
You don't.
How do you go to Brock?
Yeah, you don't. He took the job back.
Yeah,
he took the job back. Derek Carr. I don't know how I feel about the 49ers this year. Like they just going to keep winning a ton of games and getting to the NFC Championship. Because there's
a really good regular season team again. Now playoffs, you never just one game. You never know. I think they're gonna. The talent level is too much. But they got money and they got draft picks, and this front office has shown they can build a roster.
You need 97 healthy for the whole
Absolutely.
season though.
97, okay. 54, 71.
Yeah, but you played some games without Debo, right? Like you went all over the place with quarterback. Nick Bosa might have missed one game, but he didn't miss many though.
Yeah. Game changer.
Fred Warner didn't either.
Yeah,
like those are guys.
97, 54. You need those two.
You can't afford to play without those guys. And it's like, all right, everything went your way that way last year,
but
need it to happen again.
But it went that way for those two. Feels like everybody else around them got hurt. right?
Well, but
You know what I
that's
mean?
right. But
And Nick Bosa missed the game.
But that was the point, though. Like, you made it work. I don't think you can make it work if you. And if I were to rank them, I would go Bosa first and then Fred Warner. I don't think you can make it work if you lose one of them for an extended period of time, especially 97.
So let's flip it, right? All those guys
smack it first.
Rub it down.
Okay, all right. Never mind. Never mind.
But let's say Bosa. I don't want to say season ending. Say Bosa is out for 6 games.
Okay.
But Debo don't miss, Kittle don't miss, Trent don't miss, Emmanuel Mosley don't miss, whoever Hufanga, like all those guys are healthy. I think you can survive it. Okay. Whereas this year, Bosa was there for all but 1 game, but they lost Kittle for some time. They lost Debo for some time. I think Trent missed some games, and they were still able. I think, point being, I think they have enough talent. They have enough talent around where it doesn't torpedo that season. If he's out for the season for some reason, that may be a different story. But
one more other quick note here. This one on Derek Carr. Derek Carr, for reasons known to only Derek Carr, says he believes his free agency process is going to take a long time. Now, I'm going to explain something to Derek. Derek is not on a team. He could sign with anyone he wants to. He doesn't have to wait till the new league year. He doesn't have to wait till the start of free agency. This is my guess what has happened in his meetings with the Jets or whoever else he may have met with. It's like, yeah, we like you. We're going to talk to Jimmy too, and we're also going to explore this Aaron Rodgers thing. So him coming out and saying that my free agency process is going to take a while is probably nothing more than teams telling him, yeah, we got to do our due diligence on these other players, and we can't sign them now. We can sign you, but we can't sign Jimmy Garoppolo right now because he's still a San Francisco 49er. Yeah. We can't open talks. I guess you could trade anytime you want to. You can have trade discussions with the Green Bay Packers anytime you want to, or whatever other free agent quarterbacks that might be out there. You can't have those discussions till after the new league year starts. Yeah. So I kind of feel like Derek Carr was given we like you, but we don't love you from a couple of teams. And so he just kind of has to sit on the sideline till the new league year gets here.
Yeah, I think you're spot on with that.
He's in a weird situation, but if I were him, I would be aggressive.
But that's my thing. I don't think he can be, because I don't think anyone is like, I mean, I can see why people say, I could see why the Saints work. Like, I could see why some of these teams work, but clearly they look at Derek Carr like, yeah, Derek Carr is a good option if option 1 doesn't work. And I'm wondering if the Jets and Saints and some of these other teams, Derek Carr might not be option 1. And it's wild to think Jimmy Garoppolo might be option 1, but we've talked about how neck and neck those two quarterbacks are and how they're going to be competing with the same teams.
We're going to start hearing teams that really that have to go sign quarterbacks, that you're going to hear his name floated out more to try to drum up that competition between the other teams. So a team like the Colts, clearly the Colts are going to be a team that, they recycle old, bad quarterbacks all the time. And you could see them jumping into this conversation, oh, maybe the Colts, maybe the Saints, you're going to teams that he doesn't really want to go play for. And with the hope that you can force the hand of somebody that you really do want to play for.
Well, the one thing that jumped out to me, and Damien, I think you're spot on with your assessment, but when you talk about those teams, at the very least, one of them, maybe the Saints as well, but the Jets can't tell Derek anything until they figure out what's going on with Aaron Rodgers and if they can get him.
And I think, so I guess this is just an annual tradition of Aaron Rodgers holding the league hostage.
Yeah.
I guess
except this year
he held the draft hostage one year.
He did help
for 6 hours. It was an exhilarating. It was an exhilarating 6 hours.
I want to give a shout out to Aaron Rodgers for that day, because that day could have possibly dragged. That was an 8-hour day, and then he said, then the rumors came out he's trying to force his way to the 49ers. That got us at least.
We had Trey Wingo on that day, who was part of that story. Yeah, that was a good day for
that. Got us at least 2 hours. Now, the thing I'll say though about Aaron Rodgers and that whole situation with him is, in the past, I feel it's been him trying to hold the league hostage. I think the Packers are sick of him. I think the Packers are more open than they've ever been to getting him out of town. And I think that's the difference between this year and the years past.
It really reminds you of the situation of the other quarterback that we do not name, and Brett Favre.
No, but there's a couple
with Green Bay. When it came to like, is he staying? Is he coming back? Is he retiring? Is he going to go somewhere else? Like to me, I'm kind of over Aaron Rodgers, and I kind of would be glad if he just decided to call it quits, or if someone else decided to call it quits for him. Like if the league just basically said, "Hey, there's really not a spot for you," and you're always going to get paid, but like, why are we talking about? Isn't Aaron Rodgers like 39 years old, and isn't he like?
I think he's younger than that.
Oh, I don't think so.
Aaron Rodgers, I think he's 37, 36.
Is he that young?
I think so, because he's definitely younger than the Roethlisbergers and the.
He will be 40 in December.
Okay,
Wow.
well, what the hell do I know?
That's
Jesus
and
Christ.
that's why I'm like,
Aaron Rodgers is going to be 40 in December.
December 2nd, to be exact.
Wow.
That's like Kenny saying the Levine Gordon contest was 4 years ago.
Time flies by.
Well, see,
We've lost all concept of time.
we were
Derek-
on that
Derek Carr's
on that flight. That's
31.
on the show.
Derek Carr's
Manifest.
31 going on 32. So
Well, that checks out. I don't know why I thought Aaron Rodgers was only 37
So,
and 38.
I'm wondering
Goodness
why.
gracious.
I mean, sure, he's won a lot more, but you put Carr in the right situation, maybe he can be better. I don't know.
Well, I think the thing with Aaron is you have to have a championship caliber team right now. And your belief is you mentioned the other quarterback who should be in jail. That the Vikings were a championship caliber team. So he had to go to the Jets first, do that whole like fake retirement thing, then
Got himself
go
in trouble there too, by the way.
stunner. Oh, no one talks about that. That's weird.
It's crazy.
Weird.
All he was supposed to do was go there, shut his mouth so he can get to Minnesota.
That's it.
And he couldn't stay out of trouble.
Couldn't. Yeah, but that's not brought up. Okay, you're listening to D-Lo and Casey on KIFM West Sacramento 98.5 FM, KRXQ HD2 Sacramento, ESPN 1320, always live on the free Odyssey app. I'm having a bad day. Can't remember Aaron Rodgers' age. Chatty House is Team Kenny all day, and we're living in 1988 basketball. Man, I can't retain. It's the first game. It's the first game after the All-Star break. That's what it is. It's just a little rusty. If this is any indication of what the Kings are going to be tomorrow, boy, we're in trouble.
Well, why can't they be me?
Well, I guess they could be you, but we're a
Could
team.
be James.
Well,
We have an off day.
I'm
James
Kevin
will
Herter
pick
in
us
the
up.
3-point contest
Oh.
right now.
That hurt me. That
Ew.
hurt me. It sounds like, dang. The funny thing was, I was watching that with Reese and Julius Randle one before, and I was like, Julius Randle, he did terrible. He got 11. Kevin Herter got 8.
the whole time you're like, come on, little fella.
Come on.
Come on, little fella.
No, the whole time I was like, Kevin, don't do this to us. Don't do this to us. Come on, man. Come on, man. They're gonna take this out on Sacramento. Come on, buddy. Hit this last rack. Let's go. Yeah, it was a tough.
I mean, overall, it really wasn't like the best representation of Sacramento wasn't Emias Queta. Like,
Well,
like
hell,
overall, that's as good as it got.
them damn rookies wouldn't pass the ball to Keegan.
Yeah, they
What the
Jordaned
hell was
him.
that about?
They Jordaned him. Just wait. That's fine. When Keegan becomes a Hall of Famer and he starts icing guys out of the Olympics, hey, we all know what moment to point back to. That damn rookie challenge.
Benedict Mathurin, you thought you were going to be on the dream team. No, sir.
Keegan gonna be there holding an iPad talking about I took it personal. And then it's gonna flash to Chris. He took it personal. He took it real personal. You want to talk about Greg?
Yeah, Greg Van Dusen. For those of you who haven't heard today, Greg Van Dusen, who was part of the Kings organization from like 1985 until probably I don't know, late 1990s, passed away today at the age of 72. Just an absolute joy to be around. One of those guys who always had an incredible story to tell, and he passed away. I think I read in the Beef from kidney and liver failure. But one of the good guys. He tried to get a bid together to save the Kings, like during the relocation the first relocation stint. He is one of the guys who was on the floor mopping up water when Greg Lukenbill was in the rafters, trying to stop the leak from happening. We interviewed him for Small Market Big Heart, and just a great dude, a really, really interesting, guy who'd lived a couple of lives, really. He also was, he was the one that was at Arco Arena the day that the police called and told him that Ricky Berry had committed suicide. He picked up the phone from one of his friends on the police force who was there on the scene. He went in and walked to Bill Russell's office to go inform Bill Russell. And Bill Russell was sitting in a meeting with Ricky Berry's parents at the time and had no idea. And he pulled he pulled Bill Russell out of the office. And Bill, according to Greg Van Dusen, he told him, and Bill Russell grabbed him by the collar and lifted him off the ground and said, "You better not be effing kidding, lying to me." And Greg said he started crying, and Bill Russell instantly knew he wasn't lying. He also, that day, when the media got there, Jerry Reynolds broke down on set, trying to explain what had happened, and he took over for Jerry Reynolds and read his cue cards. So he's one of those guys as part of the Kings franchise and the fabric of the franchise. And, it's really a sad day for a lot of people. Gary Gerald, Jerry Reynolds, sad day for a lot of those guys.
Can you talk a little bit more? Because I know you did it for the documentary. What was, specific, not specifically, but give us a synopsis of his role with the relocation, and what he was able to do to make sure basketball was here in Sacramento.
Yeah, I mean, he's part of the original group that once the Kings landed in Sacramento, he was there with Greg Lukenbill as part of the business side for years. And then again, when the relocation really started, he tried to form groups of investors that would somehow, build an arena, whether downtown or he really, if I'm not mistaken, really pushed to build on the Arco property, because the Arco property is vast. And there was plenty of room to build a new arena there. But of course, land developers wanted that property to go do other things as opposed to building another arena. A lot like what we're seeing in Oakland, where, the Oakland A's property is huge. So, just a guy who, like a Sacramentan, who pushed to keep the team here for, whatever he could do. We shot for Small Market Big Heart. We shot him out in front of Arco 1, which was his preference, which we had to jump through a million hoops to get that done. But it was great. And it ends up being one of the most beautiful shots we got during the whole filming, because it was 105 degrees and we had like a white tent. So like the separation of colors and everything else, the clarity was just perfect. So much so that it overheated the camera, and we had to actually buy a new camera because the camera got too hot that day sitting out.
This does not sound fun at all. Just to be transparent.
Why did we do it at 2 p.m. on the hottest day?
Because
let's get out of here on July 15th.
When you're making a documentary and someone says, "This is when I want to do it," you go, "Okay."
Why did he want to do it at 2 p.m?
I don't know. I believe he's wearing a long sleeve shirt, and I mean, it was hot. It was hot.
Apparently, Greg was a big summer guy.
Yeah. Just a really, really big storyteller and a sweetheart of a guy. I'd run into him a couple of times in the last couple of years. Always a guy I'd, have a drink with and sit down and talk Sacramento sports. Really an original character. So sending love out to his family.
Yes, indeed. I always, whenever you tell stories like that, reminded Bill Russell is such a unique part of Kings history.
He is.
Like, it's so in comparison to who and what Bill Russell is. He was here, and he's here for moments that Kings fans will hear about forever.
Mm-hmm. Like
the Ricky Berry story will be told forever. The Jerry Reynolds press conference will be told forever. He's such it's such a unique part of our history that Bill Russell is a part of.
Yeah, and talk about a guy who took the job for the paycheck and just like, he had really no interest in being here. I think he's only part of the franchise like 10 months. It's something extremely short. And if I'm not mistaken, Jerry Reynolds had to fire Bill Russell. Could you imagine being someone
that's
who had
amazing.
fired Bill Russell?
That's amazing.
Jeez.
So
I am forever introducing Jerry Reynolds as the guy who fired Bill Russell now.
yeah. Yeah.
The one thing I think about, and it's great that people like you are here to tell a story, is it feels like, and tell me if I'm wrong, but it feels like, we're losing those people that got the Kings here and could tell that story. It's much like what people talk about.
Yeah, we just lost 3 years off Aaron Rodgers' life, man. Time is moving.
Man,
Buddy Hield got older.
Well, Buddy, yeah.
Buddy Hield got older in the middle of the season, and it wasn't his birthday. How?
It was his birthday. He skipped 2 years.
He had 2 birthdays on one birthday.
That's right.
Wild.
But like like how people talk about they talk about like World War II people who were actually in it, like we're those guys who could tell those stories. I'm so fascinated with the story of how the Kings got to Sacramento, California, and it's great that you spent time with guys like that who were able to get them here, and you can keep telling that story and keep talking about how they got here, how they stayed here, things of that nature.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I've mentioned it before, but my degree isn't in journalism. My degree is history.
We all loved history.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I'm a big history guy, and so that it's always intrigued me, and sort of the way the brain works, I can be an encyclopedia of times and what's happened here and what's happened there. Also, like doing Small Market Big Heart, like sitting in Greg Lukenbill's basement for 3 hours doing an interview. And again, Greg Lukenbill is like the guy who fought hard. He wasn't the money guy, but he's the guy who fought to bring the team here. He's, a developer and all that stuff. A lot of, building Arco and getting a team to Sacramento was nothing but a land grab for a lot of people. It was about taking unincorporated farmland and converting it into commercial and residential space. So the county, the city, they wouldn't let it happen. All of that area out there that was farmland. And in order to bring the Kings here and to build that stuff, they were able to trade a lot of, like how property is actually listed and how you can actually, what you can build on what property out in that area. And so, yeah, like I've got to see quite a few things in my 13 years and got to have, conversations, how many car rides I've had with Jerry Reynolds going to the Bay Area and just sitting around and chatting, guys like Gary Gerald that you spend time with. My favorite interview my entire life is Gary Gerald in the stands at Arco Arena for Small Market Big Heart. Like by far, there's not even an interview that I've done that compares to it. It's hiding somewhere on a tape that no one's seen. You've only seen bits and pieces of it in the actual film, but the interview itself was, I don't know, an hour plus, and just such an incredible man. And like they're friends now, which is crazy to think of. But there's a time where these are guys that you just looked up as heroes that are on TV and on the radio and are, the coach of the Kings or making decisions as general manager and stuff like that. So yeah, it's cool to get to be on the inside and meet these people and actually have relationships with them as opposed to just looking at them from afar. And
James has seen a lot of things in his 13 years.
Except for playoffs.
Except for that.
Playoff game.
Except for that. And hopefully that changes this year. James, we were, as Kenny was passionately telling everyone how he's ready for this final stretch run of basketball. I feel Kenny's excitement because you look around at these other teams in the league, and obviously Phoenix has goals, the Clippers have goals, the Lakers, Anthony Davis, they're all saying the right things. LeBron James, Darvin Ham, they're all saying the right things. You got to win every game. Every game matters from now on. And then this is the mythical turn up part of the season that everybody talks about. But I don't know that there's another organization. Maybe less specifically an organization. I don't know that there's another fan base that is going to be riding on every single game the way that the Sacramento Kings are. This fan base so desperately wants to see that embarrassing 16-year playoff drought come to a conclusion that every game is going to garner such a reaction. Tomorrow night's game is going to garner a reaction. Saturday night, Kings win the next two. Oh my! There might be a party. there might be a legit party in Sacramento on Friday night if that were to happen. But these games hold such importance that, man, we were talking about this privately. We're in a sprint till the end of the season because everything for us, for them, has such great magnitude.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. We talked about it early in the year how, well, like at the end of January, there's only 3 home games in the month of February, right? And we're going to have that last one coming up in a couple of days, tomorrow. But what do we got? How many home games do we have left? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 home games left. That's it. Like this season, it's almost over.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is going to be such a sprint. And if you lose focus for even the smallest amount of time, things can get out of hand quickly. And it's going to be an interesting phase of the season. I know we asked Malik Monk yesterday about like, what are your expectations? He goes, to win.
Absolutely.
To win as many games as possible. We're going to win. And I'm like, all right, like, that's it. Like, yeah, that's the focus. The focus is we can't let off at any moment. If we want to be there, we have to win every single game possible. And I look at their schedule and I totally get it. There's not like a big break in this schedule where you're like, okay, there's 5 or 6 easy ones.
Mm-hmm.
There's just not. The Kings have a brutal schedule it's like the third or fourth hardest in the NBA, the second, I think, in most difficult in the Western Conference. It's going to be a dogfight. And if you're not 100% bought in at this point, go sit on the end of the bench or we'll just waive you and you can go home now. Like this is time where it's put up or shut up and it's going to be intense, but everyone's got to stay in the moment and let's ride this thing out.
And I think this team, this group of guys that they have on this roster, I think they're built for this moment. I think of Malik Monk, De'Aaron Fox, the way he plays now, Sabonis, they're built for this moment. They're built to go out and win as much as possible. I mentioned it last week. You know, I keep giving worst case scenario. We talk about 12 and 13 or whatever. What are the Kings mess around and go 15 and 10? Like they're good enough. They are good enough. They have been questioned, at least in Sacramento, at a number of different points all throughout the season. And they've answered the bell every single time. I know they haven't been here before, but what they've shown me leading up to this is they're probably going to answer the bell again. They're going to get this thing closed out. Like I said, I came just for argument's sake with a below 500 record in the final 25 games of the season. They haven't been below 500 for an extended stretch except for the first 10 games of the season. Was that 5-5 or were they 4-6? I can't remember.
They were 0-4 to start,
4,
then they won one and lost one. So they were 1-4, 1-5 to start the season.
And that's been the only time they've done that all year. The only time.
Yeah.
Other than that, they've won games away, at home, good teams, bad teams. They've answered the bell every single time. I expect them to do the same thing now.
Yeah, they got to 6-6. That's when they hit 500, but that was in the midst of that 7-game win streak early in the season. So 6-6, and they never
went below it, right?
Yeah, they went to 10-6. They came close, and there were times where you thought, "Oh, you know, like are they going to be able to pull out of this?" You know,
the Pacers game, leading into the Pacers game, they had lost 3 in a row.
Yeah, they were 17-15. You know, so they've been 2-3 games over 500, 20 and 18. But I don't think it did not get closer than that. I don't think.
Expecting a collapse would be expecting something that literally hasn't happened this season. Not once. This is the best team we've seen in a long time. This is the most consistent team we've seen in a long time. And if we take the we out of it, we take the Sacramento part out of it, it's been one of the most consistent teams in the league to this point in the season. Now, if you believe Phoenix got better, great. Like, I get it. Phoenix is very good. They're probably going to look a little bit different. I think we got an alert from Brian Windhurst earlier, said KD could play as soon as Sunday. And And then you know how we feel about the Clippers already. Even, you know, I think the Westbrook edition is just kind of a cherry on top of that. That's already a really good team. I think there are a lot of question marks elsewhere that don't involve Sacramento. I think Dallas is still a question mark. I love the talent of Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic, but I have questions about that team as a whole. And then, you know, talking about Sacramento, not for Sacramento to fall, they would have done something that they haven't done all year. You're kind of looking for the same thing from New Orleans and Minnesota in terms of them playing in a way, in a positive direction that they haven't played all year. Zion's not back. I think we just got Steph. Steph is going to be Steph is up for getting reevaluated in another week. So that's reevaluated. It doesn't mean he's back. That means he's
more than a week. I think, unless they updated it.
I think they just updated it today.
Before it was mid-March. Reevaluated in mid-March. That was the first.
Oh, I meant for Steph Curry?
Steph Curry. That was like about a week ago. They said reevaluated in mid-March.
I thought we got one today that said next week, but let me make sure I'm not wrong.
I don't have my Twitter up in front of me today.
That just came out. There was a release. He's going to be reevaluated in another week.
Okay. So they bumped it. And that's good for him because mid-March is great. Because remember,
that's wild. I was like, wait a minute.
We had the conversation like there's like 10 games left at that point.
Remember, I told you guys that's an injury that no one's ever seen before. So there is no like proven track record for it. We have no idea. And to go like strength of schedule, just to make sure that we're all on the same page here. So the Kings do have the third most difficult, or the fourth most difficult strength of schedule remaining. The Clippers are second most difficult. Phoenix is sixth. Minnesota is 12th. Portland is 14th. The Warriors is 16. But then when you get to the bottom, like Dallas has the easiest schedule left, 4-6-6 against. New Orleans has the third easiest. Even OKC, which I don't think they're cashing it in yet, they have the 26th easiest. 25th easiest is the Lakers. Memphis is 24. So these are all teams that you're competing with. You're around in the standings, and it's, you know, you got to stay laser focused, and it's not going to be easy. The task at hand is to me, it's nowhere near what you've been through already. Like this is where you got to, you know, mile 18 of the marathon, and that last 6 miles can wipe you out.
They'll stay focused. They'll bring it home.
Yeah, and if you run the first 18 right, you've got the next 6 with no problem. It's when you run the first 18 like a jackass, which I might.
You might have done
may have done once or twice. That makes the 20-mile wall difficult. It makes those final 6 miles harder.
Which is what we've seen the last couple of years, regardless of how real you think it is. They've been garbage through November, December, January. Then they try to turn it on come February, around the Monty makes a trade or two, and now they're 3 games back of the 10th spot with 15 to go. With 27 wins, they're 3 games back. Right. That's what you guys are referring to with handling your business early. They've handled their business, so now they can finish this thing all out.
I mean, there's all these individual markers. There's obviously, you know, you want them to get to a point where they clinch a top 6 spot, but there's also like, you know, we've got to rep our 40-win guys leaving the Chase Center. You know how many times that clip is going to be played when this team gets to 40 wins? That's going to be on PTI. It's going to be on Sports Center. It's going to be everywhere. And then when they hit the 41 marker and then the 42 marker, like there's going to be little markers the rest of the way of the season that De'Aaron, Domas, Mike, those guys don't care about, but we will. Like those will be moments that, like, all right, that's a great countdown to this moment. That's a great countdown to this moment. And this is what we've talked a lot about, Jane. This race is going to get tough because of what we just said about Phoenix, because of what we just said about Los Angeles, and because Dallas is a bit of a wild card. I'm not buying Minnesota, and you know, you're talking about mid-March. I feel like that was Cat's timeline. I feel like Cat was somewhere. I remember Cat, they said he might be back with like 10 games left. Good point. Yeah. Like, where the hell is Minnesota going to be with 10 games left in the season? Mm-hmm. Play-in contention, sure, but are they going to be in the 7th spot? And then New Orleans, we found out last week that Zion's going to be out for an additional time frame after the All-Star break. So we're still looking at multiple weeks without Zion Williamson in the lineup. And there's a very real possibility that we see Brandon Ingram and Zion for the first extended periods of time, like at the very, very, very end of the season. And so what's that look like? If you've got must-win games for New Orleans or you got must-win games for Minnesota, two teams trying to get two of their primary players involved in the final days of the season, that's tough.
Yeah.
We saw that with Chris Webber years and years and years and years ago. But the difference is these teams aren't rolling.
No.
That Kings team was rolling. These teams are not. These teams are searching and struggling, and Minnesota's trying to figure out what the hell went wrong.
Yeah. No, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Kings, what they have to do here is they have to show that they can continue to improve on the defensive end. Like, it's one thing to just look at the schedule and all that. We know this team can score with anybody, right? But at some point, if they're truly going to be a legitimate, 4, 5, 6 seed, 3, 4, 5, 6 seed, they have to show us that they can sustain defensive, quality defense for at least 36, 38 minutes, not like 8 minutes a game.
Or as Kenny would say, just score more.
I get that. But everybody here at the end is going to be trying to score more.
Mavs tried it. Didn't work.
One game it did, though.
That's all they need. Mavs needed to win both. They couldn't. They tried to outscore them 2 times in a row. They couldn't do it.
Yeah.
I think Kenny's right. If they just outscore teams the rest of the way, it'll be.
I guess.
That's the key. That's the key.
Yeah.
It's the key.
Put up more points than the other guy.
Kenny's keys.
Kenny's keys.
Yeah.
If you want to sponsor it, it's right there for you.
Kenny's keys.
Kenny's keys to a Kings victory. We'll come back. We'll talk more Kings basketball with our 1320 Kings insider, James Ham, here on Sacramento Sports Leader, ESPN 1320.
Maybe we'll do a post-game show called Courtside for Kenny's Keys too.
Courtside.
Y'all hit the thumbs up while you're here. Pretty please. Hit the thumbs up. These are the next. Why'd you stop at 9? Why didn't you go to 10? Did you run out of characters? Just wondering. Blazers, Clippers, Thunder. Clippers, Wolves, Pelicans, Knicks, Suns, Bucks. Thunder's on the road, right?
Back to back.
I think it's home, away, home. And the Clippers and Wolves is a back-to-back. That's a Friday, Saturday. Because I don't think I can go Friday, but I'm going to try to go. I need to get to see them.
That is Clippers, Wolves back to back.
I'm going to try to go to both games.
That's such a big.
I really want to go to the
like
Clippers one.
This whole entire stretch here is so huge because it's all teams that you're competing with. So
you're going to have a better showing against the Knicks also. Like that last time was trash.
Well, look at that though.
No Fox.
Wait, hold on. You'll be where?
Yeah, man. 3rd and 4th.
Seeing the direction the Kings are headed for this season, like, is it already a good season? Like, if you know what I mean? No.
Nope. Too far.
There's a chance it could still be bad.
Oh yeah, it could be bad. It could be the Cleveland Cavaliers. It could be bad.
So that's where you just make a plan and then fall out, right?
You've got to make it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Make it. And I don't think Cleveland was in it this late. Like they were. I think they had fallen down to the play-in spot this late. They weren't still top 6. Let's get to come on, let's get to 200 likes. We right there. Come on, man. Let's get to 200 likes. Those likes are important to us. They make us feel good. They help the channel grow.
Hey, you guys, if you didn't see it already on Twitter, go check out Young Zell tomorrow. Good Day Sacramento, man. Live performance, Light the Beam on Good Day Sacramento. Go check my guy out.
Light the Beam now. Shout out to our man Cody for making that happen.
Yes, indeed. Shout out Cody, man. It's my guy.
Shout out Courtney, Coco, just because. Always. Young Zell, tell Coco I said hi. That's your number one. That's your number one rule. When you get ready to leave tomorrow, you say, Coco, D'Lo said hi. Yeah, I saw that too. Young Zell made the New York Times.
He did. I didn't see that.
It was writing about the Beam. Unblocked me from Twitter. And
come on, young Zell out here making moves. Then he got his mini mansion joint. I'm gonna be there for that.
Yeah, that's next month, right?
Yeah.
March.
Yeah. Don't forget about us, bro. When you at the Grammys, man, don't forget about us, bro. Remember the little dudes.
Yeah, don't forget us when the Dope Ones is making collages for you. But the Dope Ones and Young Zell both. Hey, remember them two dudes we did radio? Man, what were their names? Cavs were 35-23 at the All-Star break last year. Good pull securing the beam. Good pull.
The Kings are 1 win away from tying my second highest win total season that I've covered.
That's not good. I mean, it is, but it's not. It's not.
Yeah.
We did the math way back when on what it'll take for the Kings to get to 500 for James Ham's career record. I think it'll take 7 seasons of something.
No, I think it's 12 at 50 wins.
Oh.
I think you guys did the math. I was 240 games under at the start of the season. Oh.
Man, I got to figure that Friday game out now that Miss P going to be here.
Yeah.
Miss P and Russ, I got to.
Shout out Russ. They're that rotation, man. That's just they got a lot of people, man. They got a lot of people.
The Clippers?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you blow it up if it doesn't work this time?
No, you never blow it up because you got Ballmer money.
That's true.
Yeah,
you throw money at that. You throw money at it.
What is that? Oh, that's your ice shake.
Yeah.
I forget you freeze that. I thought you had like some trail mix and the
trail mix is gone.
Raisins were at the bottom or something. He was trying to get them to the top. I don't know what was going on over there.
He picked through he's just trying to eat all the M&Ms out.
I got trail mix
with
no candy. All peanuts and craisins. I don't like raisins.
Yeah, craisins are I agree. Craisins are better.
I saw this crazy time lapse of Elk Grove from 1984, 2020.
Leave us in suspense. Happy to be back here live with you as the second part of the NBA season gets underway. The Sacramento Kings and the Portland Trailblazers, of course, it's first night of a back-to-back as they'll take on the Blazers tomorrow night at the Golden One Center and then head down south to take on the Los Angeles Clippers on Friday night. And then they have that can't be right. The Thunder, that's not a back-to-back, is it?
No, it's Sunday, Tuesday.
Okay, and then they got another back-to-back next Friday, Saturday with the Clippers again, this time here at the Golden One Center, and then the Minnesota Timberwolves again at the Golden One Center on Saturday. Lots of big-time basketball. Every game is going to be big, whether it's the Thunder, who we're curious about what direction they're going. Hell, tomorrow's game could have some weight on what the Portland Trailblazers are doing moving forward. That could be the little boot. All right, guys, we'll go for a plan. Let's keep it moving. They drop down. Let's evaluate this a little bit moving forward before we have to sell Dame Lillard on Victor Wembanyama and load managing these last 20 some odd games of the season.
Yeah, aren't they in a weird situation?
Because
they're not good.
No. I mean, they all, with Anthony Simons is out, that's tough. The weird situation with Gary Payton that happened, Gary Payton II. And, this is more of what, because James, we've told you, I think the whole intensity of the season, I think that's a bit overblown going into this final stretch of the season. I think it's a fun talking point. I do believe there's some realism behind it. Like you mentioned, the Dallas series with Sacramento. Like, I get that. Like, that was really important for both teams. But what I'm really anxious to see play out, which we've seen maybe once before, twice if you include Zion, is the Victor Wembanyama thing. How do teams really approach this next 2 months? Like, how does the Oklahoma City Thunder approach this? Like, realistically approach it. How does Portland? How does teams that are right there on the cusp that know we're not going to win a championship, we're right on the cusp of a play-in, what's better? Like, I think that's a more interesting dynamic to watch to me than the intensity of the season.
Well, I'll tell you, I'm looking at the schedule. You got a game against Utah that could be part of the conversation. You got 3 against Portland. You got 1 against the Spurs. And then I run out of teams that you're looking at as that type of team. So, like, it's part of the problem. Like, you have the OKC games. Like, the Kings schedule, it's no joke. Like, the strength of schedule isn't like, we're not just throwing that number out there and saying, hey, they have a tough schedule. Like, every team they're playing is at or near 500. Every single one of them. I mean, Portland's 2 games under. That's like the only other team that I can circle and say they're way under and they have no shot. 1 game against the Spurs. You know, the rest of these teams, if they want to play for it, you know, you could see OKC making a run here. They've got an easy schedule. They're 28-29 on the season. They have an opportunity. Minnesota is a team who's 31-30. All of these other teams that they're playing, you know, maybe the Wizards we can put in that category who's 28-30, but still they're in the Eastern Conference. They can sit there and make a run. The rest of these teams, they're right in it. And, you know, again, I think Utah is going to be the one team that I think will just pull the ripcord. And you got 2 games against Utah down the stretch. So that's good. But the rest of these guys, man.
You still got to win those games, though.
Yeah, you gotta win. Playing.
They had a couple of tight ones against Houston earlier.
Yeah.
You still got to get those ones.
The other thing I'll say about, like, you know, turning up the intensity in the final 25 games, like, all right, Phoenix, yeah, turn up the intensity. Clippers, yeah, turn up the intensity. Minnesota, what the hell are you talking about? Turn up the intensity. Who are you to say, yeah, we about to turn up now? New Orleans, we about to turn up the intensity. Like, stop. You're New Orleans.
Those teams
same thing with OKC. Like, so yeah, the basketball is going to be, you know, a little more intense. Chicago's in that too. Like, Chicago ain't turning up the intensity. Like, they're going to play like.
I'm sorry, Patrick Beverly is there, sir.
Hey, easy work for whoever's guarding him. I said it all year. Easiest assignment Davion Mitchell ever had. De'Aaron, yeah, you try to guard Patrick Beverly and see what, or Patrick Beverly, you try to guard De'Aaron and see what happens. Barbecue chicken.
They brought in Patrick Beverly to prop up that locker room. I read this morning. Like, oh God, like that's the shape that locker room is in. You're bringing Pat Bev.
Yeah, I mean, Chicago's one other team that I missed. That's, you know, like 7 games under. So, yeah, look, you're gonna see teams that have been there before who are super focused. You guys might be right. Like, if we shake out and we really look at this and like what team is gonna, like, you look at the Clippers. The Clippers understand what's at stake when they play the Kings twice in the next week, right? They understand. They've been there before. Phoenix, Milwaukee. Now these guys are fighting for playoff position. A team like Brooklyn that still has talent, you know, that who knows what they're going to be and what they're, you know, by the end of the season.
Playoff team.
But then you have this stretch, you know, you have this like home stretch with Boston and Phoenix. Again, I think Utah by that point will be out of it. Minnesota, I'm not worried about the Minnesota, the Portland twice. Like, you're right. But it's those other games against teams. You finish at Dallas, against the Warriors at home, at Denver. Like, those 3 games.
You throw that Denver game out of the window.
Oh, you would think so, except for they got a head coach who can't forget the owner that fired him. And you think he's going to.
He's not playing Jokic 40 minutes that night.
No, but if he's got an opportunity to put you in the 7 seed, he's going to go for
he's
that.
Gonna try it, but that's what we're talking about. We're talking about going up against Denver where Jokic and Jamal Murray are playing 38 to 42 minutes. Like, that's not who you're going to face. That doesn't mean they won't play hard or nothing like that, but that's not who you're facing on the end of the season.
Kings play Denver pretty well too, though.
No, they do. Yeah.
I don't know why that is, but they play Denver really, really well.
Yeah. I'd like to look at a breakdown of like the perennial playoff teams that the Kings are going to face in the final 25 games. Like I can see them here, but without like mapping it out. Like which teams are going to be those teams that are ramping up that you're going to face playoff competition. But also, if you're going up against teams in similar situations to you that are teams that, we can't look at the Kings, the Timberwolves, and New Orleans and say, oh, well, the Kings are way better because their record's better right now. That's just not. We all know that those teams, whether it be injury or whether it be like, a bad stretch by New Orleans, whatever it might be, like they're teams that are around the same tier, whether their records dictated at this point or not. So those are going to be really highly contested games, most likely. And there are games that should be, fun to watch and like really good competition level. You need to split all of those games or play a little over 500 in those games. And then you need to pick up the wins against the teams that you're supposed to beat. And then whatever you can do against the teams that just flat out are better than you. And there are teams in the league. Let's not be like some purple shaded lens, glasses looking at the Kings and saying, oh, they're as good as, a Brooklyn. I mean, not a Brooklyn. They're as good as the Celtics, or they're as good as the Bucks. They're not. They're not there yet. So maybe they can be next year. Maybe they can be the year after that. But for right now, those are teams that you probably should lose those games. So you break down the schedule and that kind of idea where you're circling teams that you should beat or that you can beat or that you're in the same tier as. And, there is a pathway here without any question.
And that's why this whole act of going through the schedule and picking wins and losses is stupid.
Yeah.
Because the Boston Celtics lost twice to the Orlando Magic.
Yep.
In a row. That means nothing.
Didn't they lose by like 40 to the Thunder at home?
Jesse, did they lose by? They did. Wow.
Might have been like 50.
You didn't have to use that finger when you confirmed it, but yes, the Celtics did.
The Celtics also beat the Kings by 18 the first time they met.
Yeah, I mean, like in this part of what we do, we're trying to figure out best case scenarios, worst case scenarios, like because we don't have a game to talk about. So we're just agonizing over the schedule because we desperately want them to start playing it. I, for one, am thrilled that they got 2 games coming out the gate. Like, let's go. Timberwolves on Thursday. Let's get it in. How are you measuring up against those Los Angeles Clippers, a team that we think is going to come out of has the potential to come out of the Western Conference? How you match up against? See that right out of the gate. And, there could be good and bad. I think everybody would be thrilled if they split, be elated if they won 2. But if they lost 2, it's going to get testy. It's going to get nerve-wracking because we're all familiar with that feeling, right? Those 2 games have no bearing on the Thunder games or the Clipper games the following week or the Wolves games the following week. But we're just going to agonize over the schedule because it's the only thing that's in front of us right now. That and Will Z's magic number graphic that he created.
I love that.
Because apparently Will Z makes graphics now. Jeez.
I'm following that every single night. Taking one game off.
He's got the magic number Kings graphic posted. But update that thing every day, Will, because we're going to be stressing out over it.
The thing that I want Kings fans to hear, and the way I feel, and I'm sure everybody in that locker room feels the same way, is part of the reason why Phoenix strength of schedule is what it is, and the Clippers strength of schedule is what it is because they have the Kings on the schedule. You know what I mean? That's part of the reason why theirs is so high. Just like the Kings is so high because they got the Clippers and the Suns on the schedule. Their strength of schedule is high because they got the Kings on the schedule. They're a good team. They're a damn good team. And like I continue to say every single time, can they do this? Can they answer that? Oh, they lost 2 in a row. I don't know. They've answered it every single time. I think this team is going into this final 25 games as confident as any team in the league in what they can accomplish. Will they accomplish those same things? I don't know. I'm not saying that. But they are as confident in their abilities as any team in the league is going into the final 25 games in the season.
Yeah, I would also make the point that the reason why the Kings' strength of schedule is how difficult it is right now is because of the first 57 games of the season wasn't as difficult as it could have been. And that also plays into it. They have played a lot of their easier games earlier in the season to date. Like when we're looking at their wins and losses, You can look at it, we know they have a couple of bad losses when it comes to like that one little stretch where they had, 3 or 4 bad losses.
Hornets, Wizards come to mind.
Lakers,
Lakers.
Hornets, Wizards, Lakers, like right in that stretch. But outside of that, like they've been really consistent and beat teams that they should beat. That's why their record is where it is. Like their strength of schedule so far this season probably is one of the easier strengths of schedules to date, if you understand what I'm saying. If we flip the strength of schedule question versus like what's left versus what you already played, I'm going to say the Kings are probably in the bottom 5 or 6 of like easiest schedules to date.
Yeah. And if they do what they've done all year long, for the most part, handle business against teams that they've done all year long, they should be fine to end the season. They don't play 25 playoff teams at the end of the season. Like you got when I say teams that they should handle business, we talk about Minnesota. We can talk about OKC. And I'm not saying that they're just not on the Kings level at all, but I mean that's a game. You play OKC 2 games, you should win one of those 2. You got 3 against Portland, who we just got done saying aren't very good. You should win 2 of those 3, and they've shown that they can do that.
Yeah, I think the question is, can the Kings win 3 out of 3? Because that's where we're at. Like what's left in the schedule. If you got 3 games against Portland, you got to win all 3 because that's not a good team. And you can go down the list of teams and like you got 2 games against OKC, 2 or 3.
2,
like,
I think.
You really need both those games because there are going to be games that you just can't win on the schedule. And I mean, it is what it is.
True.
Well, no, I mean, there are games that
you probably shouldn't win. Like they wouldn't be bet to win, but they see. I think that's where the philosophical difference that I have with people who think that way. They can beat Boston at home. Would I bet the house on it? No, but they can beat Boston at home. They can beat Milwaukee. They can beat the Phoenix Suns.
They're capable of, we've said this all year, or at least once we learned who they were. They're capable of beating any team they step on the floor with. It just all comes down to what kind of night everybody's having. And there are nights where it's electric and we see it, and there are nights where De'Aaron's got to score 22 in the 4th for them to be able to pull it off. I know Kevin Huerter, he's going to have to hit more threes in the second part of the season than he did in the 3-point contest.
This is a fact.
It ain't going to be enough.
Hey, they got 2 All-Stars on their team and an all-rookie first-team player on their team.
Who they iced out because they're so intimidated.
They know what it is.
That's
they know
right.
what time it is.
They Michael Jordan him.
They got a 6th Man of the Year candidate on their roster. That's a good team. That's as good as any of the top 8 in the Western Conference. They can beat anybody in the league. Like I said, will they? I ain't saying that. I'm just telling you they can. I bet, and James knows this. Everybody, they're not going in there saying, damn, we got to play Boston tonight, guys. Look, who we got after that? Utah? Hey, let's gear up for that game because Boston is hell. No, they got as much confidence as any team in the league.
Yep. I'll just tell you, I did find it. The strength of schedule for 2022-23 season. The Kings have the 30th ranked strength of schedule so far. Win percentage 488 against.
So they've had the
easiest schedule in the NBA so far to date.
Well, that's not my problem. That's not my
just saying.
problem.
Like, look, people think that I want the Kings to win to lose or that I'm against. It's happening. I'm just trying to be realistic and reminding people that, like, look, like this is a difficult path, and a lot of these guys are basically, whether they have the tools to survive or not, we don't know yet because they haven't been in a situation like this, and the game changes.
Did you? It's kind of outside the Kings, more just the NBA. Did you see the Miles Bridges story? He told the Associated Press he thinks he'll be back in March. I looked at it's February 21st. Like Miles Bridges thinks he's going to be back in March, huh?
I did see a story where one of the reasons why they traded is it Jaden that they had Jaden McDaniel on their team or Jalen, one of the two.
I think Jaden was on.
I think it was Jaden. Yeah, one of the reasons why they were willing to trade him was because they know they're going to have their money tied up next season and the 2 forwards in Miles Bridges and PJ Washington. And I was like, okay. Yeah, I don't know. But I also know that we heard the story that, he was going to sign in December, and then that was shot down so vehemently. Like, everyone was like, nope. And I still think that you're looking at, like, if he does get back, I think the league is probably going to suspend him probably for a year. So, I mean, maybe I'm off there, but yeah, we'll see.
I'll say this about Miles. It was a good time to put that out there. Whatever the validity to it is, it was a good time to put that out there. Because if I'm Miles and you talk about being suspended for a year, like, I don't know if like time served comes into play, or it's like, okay, time served, you can't play in March. You're suspended for the remainder of this season. And then consider that, consider the situation done and you can enter the league next year.
Yeah.
But for Miles Bridges to put that days after they put Karl Malone all over their television for an entire weekend, that's brilliant planning by Miles Bridges. And I don't mean to harp on this Karl Malone stuff as much as I have. I just can't get over how awfully tone deaf it was for the NBA to put that out there. And shout out, it was a guy with Sports Illustrated. Someone tweeted what, like, Karl Malone missed 10 games in like 15 years or something. And the guy was like, oh, that's weird. I thought it was 12. Fact check me. Google Karl Malone 12 and see what comes up. And then for those who haven't done it,
that was clever.
Google Karl Malone 12 and see what comes up.
Oof. Yeah.
Trista sent me a great tweet. She said, she sent me a text exchange with the NBA and Karl Malone. The NBA said, you want to judge the dunk contest? Karl Malone. No. NBA, you'll be next to a minor. I'm in.
Oh, damn.
Oh, no.
NBA said, Harold Miner.
Harold Miner, that is.
Harold Miner looked different than he did.
He looked very different.
And I'm not even like,
wasn't Harold Miner Baby Jordan?
He was Baby Jordan.
He had that baby face. Yeah, he looked very different.
And like, obviously he's bigger, but I wasn't even thinking about that. He just
he looks
yeah.
completely different.
I would have never thought that was Harold Miner looking at his face.
He had a super baby face.
Yeah.
Of course, that was a very long time ago.
Why did the NBA like just such bad?
I don't know. I don't know why they did.
Maybe you didn't have someone else. I guess, because neither Stockton and Malone.
Well, they didn't invite the other guy, right? The other guy wasn't there.
Oh no, I think he was.
Was he?
Oh,
they didn't put him on TV the same way.
Well, they certainly. They didn't want him doing an interview either.
You don't want him to talk
It's
at all.
a good strategy.
It's really crazy because people don't get the reason why this is all such an issue now is because it wasn't known while he was a player. It's known now, but when he was a player, we didn't have this understanding of who Karl Malone was. And clearly, I mean, it's the same situation with John Stockton. We had no idea Stockton would be this guy at this point, but now that you know it, you can't act like it's not a thing.
Yeah, don't make him the centerpiece of your entire weekend.
I mean, it's. I said this.
Not to mention, it absolutely looked like he didn't want to be there.
Yeah, he didn't want nothing to do with it.
I think he's wanted to ride off into the sunset and not be part of any of this anymore.
Well, then let him.
It's akin
No, I totally agree.
Roger Goodell having OJ do the coin toss at the Super Bowl. Even they got enough sense not to do that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think they did put him on as part of the promo for the Super Bowl.
Jesse's got a great point.
The juice.
Did they? No, did they really?
Yeah, he was on. They showed the running back thing with all the running backs making their moves. And
oh yeah, I mean, I wouldn't do that either. But even that's a little different. You just got.
Well, that's different than, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome OJ Simpson.
And if maybe they don't want to say his name. Maybe they don't want to say his name. Maybe they just want to go with his initials. just in case.
Just the juice is loose. Yeah, we know.
Man, I won't mention this guy's name. I'll give him his initials. OJS.
You'll never guess who he's talking about.
Still to this day, don't know who Mitch was talking about.
We've been trying to figure out who those initials are. Jesse does make a great point. Utah just needs to start calling Carlos Boozer for all this stuff.
Yeah, start doing different legends. No one's gonna care. They're not calling that other guy.
Oh no, I was gonna say
They brought out
Bring
Darren
out the
Williams.
Sloan family.
Yeah,
I wasn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Unless,
they brought
unless
out,
that's bad too.
they brought out Darren Williams, and I didn't. That's not one that I would have brought out either. Like his tenure
Well,
there.
At least he was
like,
just a bad teammate.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
If you gave me one or the other,
No, I get that. I get
I'll
that.
take bad teammate guy
Carlos
over.
Boozer, Andre Kirilenko, we're good.
Yeah. Well, you can't bring out AK-47.
Well, you just
while-
can't call him that. You just call him,
Andre Kirilenko
That's
is what
fine.
you call him.
and then it'll be Reggie Miller, AK-47.
Yeah, but can you bring out Andre Kirilenko in the middle of a a war? Like, I
Damn,
don't know.
Utah is just a bad place for this All-Star
We're-
game.
And
all the way
unfortunately, like
around.
Mark
This-
Eaton is no
this-
longer with us.
This
He
show
passed away
is
last
show
year.
is ending.
Jeff
Is
Malone, maybe
Yeah.
Jeff Malone.
Jeff,
Is he
Jeff
still with us?
Hornacek,
Jeff
if you're
Hornacek.
okay, that
Byron
we
Russell, Antoine
Thurl
Carr.
All right.
Bailey.
will you two stop? You know what? Forget it. This show is ending as badly as it started. If you're listening
Howard
on
Isley,
Odyssey, ESPN 1320, we'll just run it all back for you.
Shannon Anderson.